Welcome to American Med Spa Association podcast, Medical Spa Insider. This week, AmSpa founder Alex Thiersch is speaking with Courtney Smith, account executive, and Jon Romano, senior vice president of sales, both with Darwill.
All right, welcome everybody. This is Alex Thiersch, and welcome to Medical Spa Insider. We are very pleased to have. We are actually not on the AmSpa hotline. We are live in person in the AmSpa clubhouse with Courtney Smith and Jon Romano from Darwill, which is a marketing firm, a very well-respected, well-established marketing firm that has been around for a long time, that is breaking into medical aesthetics. And there's a very specific reason we're here to talk. And again, we were talking before we jumped on. I'm very excited about this because I have the words direct mail tattooed to my back. And because I absolutely love direct mail, I always have. But we're going to talk about direct mail, which is something that has, I think, been overlooked quite a bit in this industry, just in general. Yeah. I feel like it's making a bit of a resurgence. I feel like there's like a renaissance coming. Yep. So I can't wait to hear more about it. But first, tell me a little bit about your firm, how you got here, astrological signs, what's going on.
Right.
Go for it.
Yeah. So Jon Romano, and I've been with Darwill for 16 years. I started off just as a account executive doing sales in a couple different industries, but healthcare was the main one. And today I run our sales team. So we've got just a backdrop on Darwill. So we've got just over 300 employees. We've got 3 locations here in the Chicagoland area. We've got an office in Atlanta and one in Fort Collins, Colorado as well. So
awesome.
Yeah, we are currently serving probably 7,000, what I would say small to mid-sized businesses across the United States with our marketing solutions that we'll dive into today.
And you provide a full suite of the solutions.
Full suite of solutions, yeah. And it really starts with the data. And when we start to dive in, we can dissect that a little bit. But the data is the key.
Why Fort Collins of all places?
Fort Collins actually was a strategic spot where we had a couple employees during COVID move that way.
Gotcha.
That we ended up, there's a great college town. There's a lot of talent that's coming out of Fort Collins.
Yeah.
So we ended up building several account management teams out there. We've got a small sales team out there. And it's just been an area where we've been able to grab talent and grow. Okay. So, and it's a great place to go visit for me.
Yes, it is. It's cool. I love it out there, honestly.
Right.
Courtney, you're a Gemini, I presume.
I'm an Aries, actually, so very fiery. Courtney Smith. I am newer to Darwill, but I have been in marketing and for 20 plus years, in various different roles, both on the print side and digital side. But new to Darwill, coming up on a year this summer, and really jumped in with 2 feet into the medical aesthetic space here. Doing a lot of education last year on the space, went to several shows, and really excited about this opportunity here because awesome. I think this is an open area for us to kind of help.
Yeah. So I was reading your website. You've been around for 75 years?
75 years, yeah.
That's incredible.
Started off in the city, yeah.
You don't really see many marketing firms that have been around for that long.
Yeah. Right.
And so I assume, obviously, you're probably in many different sectors. Why the pivot now towards medical aesthetics? I know I'm sure it's something you've thought about, but obviously it's a great business to be in. We're obviously in it. We're very excited about it, but why now as opposed to 2 years ago or 5 years from now?
I don't know what the answer is from why not before.
Yeah.
Why now, which you can jump into that.
Yeah.
But why now is we have grown a very great book of business as far in the healthcare space, hearing care, dental, where we have proven that we can get butts in seats, and we can make sure that we're taking the data from these healthcare organizations, these providers, and getting appointments made and getting people in for those appointments. So I think, and Jon can speak to this, why they wanted that to kind of translate over to med spa, but once I came on board, it was eye-opening that this is a great area for this.
Yeah.
But you can speak to.
Yeah. Any vertical, I would say, that we would look to go into, and Darwill's in probably a dozen today. There's really a few main components that we look for. Is we've got to be able to go direct to the consumer. We've got to be able to target the consumer with our data. We have to have a semi-high value product that is being sold, right? And we know that the leads that we're able to generate are going to cost a certain amount. So we've got to have a strong case for providing a return on the investment, right? So if we're going into lead generation for a pizza company, that's going to be difficult because the value of the product is so low. So what we've seen across healthcare in general is typically the metrics for how we're able to provide a return on investment continue to work in this space. And this is just another industry where we've got a lot of business owners, a lot of people doing different things. And as far as the competition goes, as far as people that are doing lead generation well, we don't see a ton. So a great spot for us to enter in, start to solve problems, start to generate leads, and kind of dig our feet in.
And that's the other thing that I wanted to touch on is a lot of times, and you know way more than we do, a lot of these practices are owners, injectors, wearing a marketing hat, wear a billing hat, you know, they're wearing a lot of hats to run their business. And I think, you know, there's things out there that they don't know that are out there that could potentially help them.
Right.
So that's another reason why this space is very interesting and intriguing to us, because there are owners that are doing far too much to help. We could help grow. We could help them grow into different locations.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And well, that's why you guys are here, and I can't wait to talk about that. Jon, you did mention lead generation. One thing that we see there's a ton of in this space, digital marketing companies, a lot of social media, obviously. Is there a difference or a distinction that you all use between lead generation and like marketing and digital marketing?
Yeah, I would say the difference between our approach would be when you're looking at just a digital marketing agency who's able to go capture demand that is in the market today based on search traffic, or based on display advertising or whatever. Typically, that demand is reactionary to where we've got ads that were put out there, we've got paid search that were put out there, and who's ever searching for it, it's our ability to be able to find that and then put ourselves in front.
Yeah,
whereas the way we look at it from Darwill's perspective is, how do we take our customers' database, how do we build a strategic model around finding people who look just like that in the areas that they're already serving, and how do we put a proactive approach out that targets people that may not exactly be searching today, but we know that if we are present and we have a strategy for being present, that we can go ahead and capture that as a client. So the growth is very proactive. And it's not just a matter of capturing what's out there today.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's where the mail comes in.
Yeah.
You can do that very effectively through the mail.
And let's get into that. So direct mail. I mean, again, like I'm buzzing already. What's the and Courtney, you mentioned you know, you can do things, or you see opportunity in this industry that maybe they're not taking advantage of already.
Right.
Direct mail, I assume, is one of those things. But let's so direct mail or otherwise, what can folks do to start capturing them? Let's just kind of get into direct mail more generally. Like, why is it something that you think is going to be big in this industry? Is it already big in this industry? And then we'll get into some of the data and analytics and how we get there.
Sure. I don't know that it's already big in this industry, direct mail. I don't think it is. I think, as we've just talked about, digital is huge, social is huge. I think injectors have their own pages, they have their business pages, and I think there's a lot of organic growth that they're getting from that. But that only goes so far. And I think what Jon was talking about, when we ingest a customer's database, a practitioner's database, and we then give them back what their market looks like, what their customers look like, whether or not they know that, but we're giving them a good picture of where they're coming from and who they look like. And then we're modeling those customers, and we're showing them the areas of opportunity around where those customers that share all the same variables live within their market. And that's just one of the segments that we're going after. So that is current lapsed customers, that is prospective customers, and I think it's an area that with direct mail, there's an inherent sense of authenticity, of integrity when a piece of mail comes into your home. It has staying power. It sits on your coffee table. It sits on your counter. So that brand recognition is just in your face when you walk around your house, or it sits in your car, in my perspective. But so I think direct mail just has staying power, whereas sometimes a direct or a digital ad comes and goes, and you might miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would add to that too, like where the direct mail automation world is at today, which is significant, is any company like ours, and there's not a ton of them out there, that is connecting to the CRMs in the space, that is taking events in the data, whether it's something as simple as happy birthday, or somebody that's just moved into the area that would be a prospective client, somebody who is due for or maybe a treatment that they didn't show up to the appointment for, so there needs to be a reminder that goes out. That all sits on the staff's ability to manage that, depending on how busy they are. And where our organization's at today is we're automating all that communication. So if we've got a data connection with the CRM, I can go take the top 6 or 12 pieces of communication inside of that data, and I can have that come over to me on a nightly basis, have predetermined campaigns or letters that speak exactly to where that person is in that database, and then trigger an automated campaign that goes out to them, right? Which is very difficult to do, almost impossible to do from a digital standpoint. You see people that have done it through email.
Yeah, I was going to say it's like drip. It's like drip email through direct mail.
Typical email databases for any customer maybe is 30% of the total database. So you have a huge gap to where people just don't have emails. You've got opt-in issues with emails, right? And then you've got obviously text that's out there as well. So, but any one of those things can be immediately moved into junk or immediately opted out of. And you've lost that ability. So that's where mail has gotten really smart. It's gotten really automated. It's gotten really predictable for us to be able to solve some of those problems in the database today.
And it's really hard for one practice, one location to do that type of mailing cost effectively. Whereas if you're running with us, and we kind of build this economies of scale, because we are printing twice a week. So we're printing twice a week. So you can print 100 pieces at a different rate, at the lower rate, because we're doing it in a
I'm doing it
batch.
For 4,000 or 5,000 people at the same time.
Right.
So as opposed to printing out thousands and thousands to one account and you're paying for the whole thing, you've got some economies of scale.
Yes.
Yeah. Huh. So
interesting.
Yeah.
What is it about just mail in general? Because I feel like for a while we would talk about direct mail. We've talked about direct mail to some of our med spas, and it was for a long time when email was big and social media was big. People were just like, no, not direct mail. We're not going to do it. It's too expensive.
It's ancient, right?
It's ancient. Doesn't have a good return.
Yeah.
Let's talk kind of numbers and the reality of like what is it about direct mail that is appealing to people? How does it work? Do you have some actual numbers on return? Like what I've always thought, 1%, 2%, 3% or something like that. I would love to get some data on that too.
Yeah.
I think Jon touched on this earlier, and I don't want to say, put anybody, call anybody's baby ugly, but they're probably not doing it right.
Yeah.
They're probably doing a dot radius and not really doing a ton of the data work behind it to make it work.
It would be expensive. People that feel it'd be expensive too.
It would be expensive.
And it is.
Yes.
I mean, typically you go, if you want to get a market analysis done of some type of demographic study of your database, and then you want to go build a marketing strategy, you've got to either go to an agency or you've got to hire some type of consultant company that will come in, that'll charge you 5 figures to do that. So that's where Darwill's in a unique position to where we can take large solutions for companies that are way bigger than a 1 or 2 location owner, but we can apply those solutions to that owner and give them those economies of scale because we're doing it at scale, right? So that's where you really see the advantage for the small business owner that can take advantage of these enterprise solutions, the enterprise data, the market analysis.
So you have the data and the analysis. It's more targeted. What about the question or the pushback? Well, people are going to take it. They're just going to throw it out. There's going to be a ton of junk mail. How does it make an impact or a difference nowadays versus before? Or?
I would say that's also probably part of the creative behind it. And we have a great creative team as well. That's also part of our solution is we have best practices, and we know over the 75 plus years we've been doing this, we know what is attractive to people, what gets the best response. And we apply those to everything we do. So we're collaborating with the practitioner and putting our best practices forward so that piece is going to drive more conversion than probably something that they've done in the past.
Yeah.
So what's a good design?
You'll see it different in different industries. Gift cards have been a big attractor. Piece of plastic looks like a credit card. That's a gift card that comes out that's sticking a little bit through a number 10 window envelope. Open rate is way higher. The services that you're offering with that gift card, that appeal is a lot better. So our creative team uses tools, and there's a couple big ones out there. I don't know how familiar you guys are with them, but there's tools where there's people like you and I that will fill out a profile and they'll submit all their mail to these companies, and these companies will profile the demographics. They'll upload up all the creatives so we can see across the United States what demographics are getting what, who's mailing what are the offers, what are the call to actions, and we can see pretty quickly, hey, if AT&T is running a test in these markets at this volume, and then they roll out something to the entire United States, there's things I can learn from that creative. And we've been very successful over the years, not reinventing the wheel on creative, but really almost kind of stealing some of the top things that you can see that the Chase Banks of the world, some of these big marketers are doing with big budgets, and they know exactly how to get in front and drive demand. So we're taking a lot of that inside and leveraging that for our clients.
I also think it depends on who you're sending the mail to. So you're sending it to current customers. That piece of creative is going to look way different than something going to a prospect. And we take that into account when we are, Jon had mentioned the trigger marketing. So if the trigger is for a prospect, that template's going to look much different. It's going to be free is going to be in your face, or something that's really that enticing offer as opposed to a current customer. And again, we do postcards, so postcard or a letter envelope, so it looks a little bit more formal. So there's different depending on the objective and who the target is. The piece could look a little bit different. But that's when you rely on your creative team, our creative team at Darwill, to give you those best practices.
Yeah, and frequency is fundamental, we always say. So you're way better off from a response and a results standpoint to take a smaller group of people that are highly qualified and focus on them 4 to 6 times during the year than you are on taking a large group and sending out something once or twice. You will see 3 times the response rate on the first part, right? And those are just things that best practices help you make great decisions for clients, help them get a return on their investment, because that's ultimately what we're chasing. I mean, I'm trying to have you give me $1, and I'm trying to give you 3. And that's how we have to look at it. And if we're successful with that, we'll do that exchange all day.
Yeah, and that's almost counterintuitive. Like you'd think, if I send it out to 100,000 people, that's much better than 1,000 people.
And
but 1,000 people 10 times, you're saying, is better than 100,000 people 2 times.
Absolutely.
No question.
When those 1,000 people look like your customer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. How do you mentioned something earlier, Jon, how do you track open rate for a piece of mail?
Yeah, open rate that's one of the toughest things because there's nothing that tells me whether or not it's gotten opened. What we track is typically the phone number that's on the piece.
Right.
Then we track the amount of appointments that came in within a window of when the mail piece landed.
Right.
And then we track the sales that came from those. So we can say pretty confidently, hey, we sent this out. Here's how many calls came in. Here's how many appointments were booked within a window. Here's the sales at the end. Now, did every single one of those come in off the mail? Likely not.
Right.
And likely people went online and maybe booked an appointment that way or whatever. So you're going to have a little bit of noise in that data, but it's a standard matchback that we do that is consistent and the same every time. So over a period of time, it really gives us a great gauge of the performance of the mail. And we always typically have a holdout that says, hey, we didn't mail these individuals. What is the rate that calls came in for this individual, appointments came in, and sales came in? So now I can look at really the effectiveness of the campaign. And that builds confidence and the ability for us to continue to build strategies and grow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the importance of really getting that API integration with the CRM to be able to kind of have that closed loop of we mailed to this person and they came in. So, and then we're obviously trying to get that lead generation to increase that CRM.
Mm-hmm. So if you have a good data-driven targeted list that you're mailing to and you're doing it with enough frequency, is there a kind of a rule of thumb for a return? I mean, what is the amount of purchases you should be getting from pieces of mail that go out?
It depends on the database.
Yeah.
And so if you take the patient file, that is going to be your lowest cost lead. So patient files could come anywhere in from $15 to $50 for a cost per lead. Typically, your next cost per lead is somebody that either booked an appointment that isn't a patient. So it's maybe our customer has a prospect file that they've got that says, hey, these are all people that came in, they booked something, but they never showed up. So that will be the next lowest hanging fruit. Then you've got new movers that are coming into the area that really are looking for new services and new relationships. And then you've got the most expensive way to do it is to model people, to build propensity models, and to go out and drive new business. But at the end of the day, we're looking to drive leads anywhere between $180 and $250. And if we can do that, we know based on what's being sold at the end of the day, lifetime value at the end of the day, we can provide a good return to where that's going to be a good part of our marketing strategy as a business.
Especially in this business, that'd be huge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and how we do that from a creative standpoint, there's a number of different ways that we're going to message that. And what may be important to me today may not be important to me when I'm traveling with my kid who's playing basketball in the next 3 months.
Right.
So that's why frequency is fundamental. We've got to stay in front. We've got to build that.
Well, and talking about this industry, Courtney, you said you went to a couple events.
Yeah.
We have our big event coming up in a month from now.
I will be there.
You can't wait. Were you there last year?
I was not.
Okay. Well, then you're going to see the best event that you've ever
Love
been
it.
to. Promise. For this industry, though, what do you think? Because again, I think what you're saying resonates because there's the focus on repeat patients, right? So you want to get that patient in, and then it's bringing them back. It's cash pay, so you're not dealing with insurance. There's a lot of different bites at the apple. You've got skincare, different treatments. What are you thinking as far as what types of mailers and creatives and what's going to resonate with this audience? What gets you excited about this audience?
I think that a free consultation would be incredible. And I think that there's a lot of people that think, well, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
What I want, I need a full facelift, you know? And I don't think that's necessarily the case. So being offered a free consultation to say, we're going to look at your skin, your whatever the treatment is, and be able to tell you what you could benefit from. So I think that's key. I do think that getting synced up to a CRM and being able to, I'm guilty of it myself, being able to send out the reminders and say, hey, this treatment pairs well with this treatment. Being able to know like the
and do that by mail as opposed to just email.
Absolutely.
Cross-sell,
Absolutely.
upsell, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think those are key. I think there's a lot of events that these organizations are hosting. I know there's one out by me in Naperville. They host events all the time, and I get mail from them saying, hey, this event is coming up, so come and you get a free product. I think that's another thing that I've heard is that there's a retail side to all of these organizations, that they have retail that they want to sell. So offer 20% off of a certain lotion or a sunscreen or whatever those are within the mail piece, and then they have to bring in the mail piece in order to redeem. So I think there's lots of different ways to get people in the door. And then getting synced up to that CRM, being able to re-hit them every 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
And this goes without saying. I think certainly to you and to anyone who's in business, but there are folks who listen who are trying to get into business and haven't really done this for very long. But this has got to be part of an overall ecosystem,
strategy,
right?
Yeah.
It can't be. You can't be by yourself. Like, you have to have, the right people to answer the phone. You've got to have
absolutely.
the information there ready when someone calls.
Yeah.
You've got to have email follow-ups, hopefully text, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So that's all part of a system. But why do you think have we gone away from it? Is it just all the things we've talked about? Just expense, you don't think it's going to work, or is it just because we're just too lazy nowadays?
I think they think it's stale. I think digital.
I hear that's the word.
Digital
stale.
is the sexy new toy, and everybody wants to be in digital and kind of continue to re-innovate who they are, because that's what digital is. It's continually evolving, and so I think they think print is stale. It is old. We don't need to do that. When it couldn't be further from the truth. We are not saying abandon your digital strategy. Not at all.
You can't.
It is using us to complement your digital strategy, to amplify your digital strategy, to reach different people or reach the same people in a different way, so that your brand is always in front of their eyeballs.
Yeah, and John, you were saying like Chase. I mean, all these, they all do it.
They do.
They're
my
doing
goodness.
it. I mean,
Absolutely.
they know what they're doing.
I think where print and direct mail have gotten a bad rap over the years is people have related it to, and it really started with the people starting to use the phone book as the fire starter.
Yeah.
Right? Because what happened with those sales guys back in the day, when those phone books stopped getting sold, they all went to digital marketing. How do we continue to sell what we're doing today, just not in print? So that kind of shifted a bunch of people over to digital marketing. And there wasn't anything really happening at that time, business listings, whatever they were selling at the time, a long time ago. But then all of a sudden, newspaper started to take a bad rap. Well, newspaper, you can't really, these full page ads, they get really expensive. You're hitting everybody. There's not our clients, right? And somehow direct mail's gotten wrapped into those two things when it couldn't be further from the truth.
Right?
So very different.
I mean, we've got 2 of the U.S. consumer files, over 270 million records that tell us who lives where, what their demographics are, what age they are, how much money they make, that we can go profile. And I've got our data science guys using AI technologies to go and say, hey, this is where all your patients are coming from. Here's what they look like, and here's everybody in that area that looks the exact same. So as far as building an audience, like it is the best spot to build an audience. If I go to Facebook, I just got to tell them the demographics, and they build the audience. They don't share that with you. So there's kind of a walled garden sitting on the digital side to do that with that you never really know. Whereas direct mail is very straightforward. I can tell you exactly who we're mailing to.
Well, and I think it's an invited piece into your home. I mean, we are constantly being bombarded with digital ads that we're not asking for.
Well, and you just swipe through it in half a second.
And again, there's a place for that, I think, and you have to target the right way. But I think that the direct mail piece, being an invited piece, you bring it into your home, is kind of offers a different perspective on it.
Yeah, and our ability to help the local business look like a local business that is there in the community, that cares about the community, that has great ratings on their service, that is the expert down the road, you can show that with a direct mail piece very simply. And so that builds trust, which is ultimately the first step that we've got to get past in order to bring a patient in. They got to trust us to say, I'm going to call. Because that's a pretty big step. Receive a piece of mail and then call somebody. I mean, think about how difficult that transaction is. You've got to build trust pretty quickly to do that.
Well, or you're going online, right? You're getting there.
Yeah, you're looking online, right?
So absolutely. But it's interesting because I just forgot what I was going to ask. Whatever it was really astute, and it was a question that you would never forget. It'll come to me. This happens to me every time. But I did have another question. How many times is there a piece of, like you said, 4 to 6, I think?
Yeah.
How many times do you have to get a piece of mail before you're going to do something about it? And I know it varies because to me, it's not just the mail coming in, because that reminds you maybe of other things that you're seeing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all collaborative. But is there a rule of thumb where you need to see it 7 times?
I do think there's a rule of thumb that's it's a 7. I think there's 7 times. And I can't remember where I saw that. I could put that in the show notes.
It was a study we did years ago.
But so it's 7 times. And again, you're right. That's not 7 pieces of mail. That's 7 times that you see a brand, that it really starts, that you might take action then.
Right.
And obviously that's averages.
You trust them at that point.
Yeah. You just constantly see it. Once you start, it starts becoming something that is just ingrained in what you're looking for and the behavior that you want to take.
Yeah. I remember what I was going to ask now, of course. You mentioned people conflating direct mail with newspaper, which is I think is completely
silly,
bogus. Because newspapers, I can see where they're getting that, but if you're buying a newspaper, that's one thing. But everyone's still going to get mail, and there's no that's not going to go. It's in the dang Constitution, so it's not going anywhere. So, I mean this. And then my other question was, have you received any feedback from medical aesthetics practices yet that have either done it or questions they've had about it? What's been kind of the journey so far?
The journey so far has honestly been, we need this. This is a missing piece for us. I think that they realize that digital is great, but there is probably a missed opportunity with a market that doesn't really engage too much with digital. So I think that is the clear thing I am hearing, is that there's a miss with print. And I think that some of them, again, like we talked about earlier, I think they've done direct mail in the past and they've had one drop. It doesn't bring in new customers, so they abandon the print strategy altogether. Yeah. So I think that what we would love is to be able to offer this market analysis and have a conversation about what these practices, what their goals are for 2025, how they want to grow their business, and see what we can do to potentially help that. Because I think that the print that they've done in the past has either failed or it's done okay, but maybe they haven't done it the right way. And if they have and it doesn't work, so be it.
Well, and it's heavy on the customer as well. Like you've got to, if you don't have an internal staff that builds the creative, that goes and finds the data, that does all the things that our company really, as a partner, as an arm of these organizations, comes alongside and does and advises on. It is really on you to go figure all that out. So that's the challenge, is finding a company like ours that is willing to invest the time, effort, and energy to put together a great comprehensive strategy that works well for somebody that may only have 2 to 5 or 10 locations.
Or one.
Yeah.
That's where it's expensive to do that, and to source all those things together.
Right.
And that's where it gets expensive, and that's where you go, well, this probably doesn't work that well. And it doesn't if you're going to pay $3 a piece, which is probably what it costs to do creative, to buy data, do all these things in a silo, and then you're running it yourself and you're responsible for it, and the owner's looking at you going, all right, that was a lot of money, and we only got 2 people in, right?
Yeah, we've done a lot of digital marketing here over the time. Digital marketing, direct mail, and we've scaled back and kind of ramped back up at times. But the issues when we've had them have always been, how do we track it?
Yeah.
Right. How do we know that this is actually making a difference? Because you got to put, we're doing like live events or sign up. So you have to say, how do you get that? How do you know that it's actually making a difference? So we'll do activation codes or whatever, but that's sometimes works, sometimes doesn't.
Yeah.
It's expensive, obviously. Right. You have to do a lot in a row, and that's difficult. But those are the reasons that I'll push back. It's like, how do we know it's working? That's kind of the big thing for me. I would love to do it. We've got 11,000 people on our list, or 20,000, whatever it is. But to send out something to that many folks, it's expensive. It's expensive. It's got to work. Otherwise, what are we doing? Especially to do it 7 times.
Right. We're big proponents of test. Take a smaller audience, do some testing, do some creative, do some A/B split testing. Yeah. And our end goal is, if you're successful at it, then we're successful at it, right? Yes. So it makes the most sense for us to test, to try some things, to see if
how does that work? Walk me through. Like, if you have like a med spa, let's say, or a dentist office, whatever it is, and then you take 2 separate pieces of audience in their neighborhood, basically, and send 2 different things.
Two pieces of creative with 2 offers,
and then see what
same time, because we don't want we've got to eliminate variables as far as weather and time of the year and stuff like that, but. We're really just trying to gauge, is there a certain piece of creative, or is there a certain subset of the data that we can get response from?
Okay.
And that's where it takes somebody that has to watch it, somebody that has to do the match back properly. Identity resolution's tough. If Courtney Smith, she may look like Courtney Smith on the address file, but when the person types her name in the office and it comes in as C. Smith, and they jacked up her first name, or they called her Coco or something like that, right? Well, now somebody's got to match that and say, hey, is that actually who we mailed? So there's technology behind that identity resolution that has to be right. That's got to be, look at the address, look at the first name combo, last name combo. Those are things that we've been doing for years. So we've kind of worked that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, I can't keep going back to this, but that is why the integration with the collaboration with the practice and integrating with their database really helps. That sharing of data will help kind of drive that trackability.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the data. I mean, garbage in, garbage out, right? So the more data you have at the beginning, the more integration with all your other efforts, it's all going to work together.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I love it.
And you end up finding very unique things that you wouldn't even think you'd find. If once you're starting to work with a company, you'd say, okay, well, here's how many leads we were able to bring in. And then you look all the way down to the end and you go, well, what happened? Well, internally, we'll start to help owners notice, gosh, our appointment booking rate was maybe 30 or 40%. Why is that? Well, then when you boil it down, they say, well, gosh, we did it during a time where we didn't have a lot of appointment availability this week. So I had to push everybody out 2 weeks. Well, we know when you do that, your cancellation and no-show rate's going to go through the roof.
Yeah.
So there's little things that you're helping educate the practice owner on, okay, we've got to, if we're going to take this strategy, I've got to be able to book within 24 to 48 hours. I've got to be able to make sure that I've got somebody answering the phone during the time that the mail is dropping, right? There's certain things that have to be in order in order to take advantage of what's being.
It might illuminate different areas of your practice that could help with your bookings.
Yeah,
you may come in and say, holy cow, half of the calls went to voicemail.
Yeah.
Well, that's not great.
Right.
So those are key learnings for owners that end up making all the difference when it comes to marketing in general.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome. I love it. I mean, I'll give you both the last word to say what you want, but I mean, I would love to have you guys look at our direct mail. I mean,
absolutely.
And we'll have to get you guys back as you get like some, get some case studies going.
Sure, of course.
Look at it, because I think, people can learn. I mean, again, I think it's going to have a bit of a renaissance. I've read that like the Gen Z group, they want to have something tactile.
They do,
And so there's no question, to me, it makes a difference. I mean, I've had shitty mail laying on my desk for 2 years.
Right.
That I still am looking at. And you don't do that on social media.
No, you
so
don't.
It's like,
you don't.
There's something there. I think it's it's overlooked, and I do think though you're right. It has to be done smartly.
Yeah.
My biggest issue has always been we're just much too scattershot. It's like a Canon approach.
You don't know where. There's so much to do.
Yeah.
Where do you start? And I think that not that medical aesthetics is necessarily new, but it has been booming over the past 10 years or so.
It's perfect for this though.
It is,
it's
but
such a visual
I
thing.
think that it boomed at the same time social media did, at the same time digital. So I think that they were growing in that digital area, that they didn't invest enough time to figure out direct mail. So I think that this is a great opportunity to kind of like shake things up a little bit and see if I really want to grow my practice, if I really want to open another location, those are all things, there's different ways that you can attack that. And maybe print is something that you can take a look at.
I think so.
Yeah.
For sure.
And at the end of the day, I have not met one practice owner or business owner across the United States that is not willing to just take a look at a market analysis of their business, their customers, what they look like, and entertain a strategy. Like there's no harm in that at all if you're working with somebody that really knows how to do that well. So for all the listeners out there, that's the step one. To take that step, we are happy to just walk you through that. No strings attached. It's just the education and learning part, I think is the easiest step to take.
Where can folks find out more information if they want?
Darwill.com.
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 And there is a Let's Talk button. So click that, fill it out, and ask for more information.
Mention this podcast.
Mention the podcast, and we will talk to you and give you guys a free market analysis.
That's awesome. Can't wait. That's cool.
Simple.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
You
This
so
is
much for having us.
exciting stuff.
This was great. Love it.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Alex. All right.
Thank you to producers Madeline Mahler, marketing content coordinator who organizes, schedules, and handles our guests, provides topics, talking points, and guest bios to our hosts. And myself, Jody Guzman, technology operations assistant manager. I handle the audio and video editing, voiceovers, and tech. Kate Harper, senior digital marketing coordinator who makes all of our graphics and manages the podcast platform. Esme Uriostegui, senior social media coordinator who makes and posts all the clips of the podcast to our social feeds. Our music is by Ghost Score. Thank you for listening to or watching the Medical Spa Insider podcast. Please follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and subscribe to our YouTube channel for future episodes. For more information about the American Med Spa Association, please check our show notes or in the description below.